Hello everybody and welcome to today's HxDR Reality Cloud Studio webinar. Today's session is about Pell Frischmann's success as a customer from the UK. We're going to have a case study with those guys and obviously provide you the latest updates from the platform, the stuff that will be landing with you in the next few weeks and months. I'm going to take you through that journey today. So firstly, let's start with a quick introduction, as we always do. I'm going to be leading the session today. You probably already know me, but my name is Paul Burrows. I'm the Technical Sales Manager in EMEA for HxDR Reality Cloud Studio. Been with Hexagon coming up to 19 years, and my role is effectively as a consultant and to validate the technical workflows of customers who are investing in our cloud solutions. So yeah, thank you very much for joining again today. I hope you enjoy the session. I'd like you to now introduce you to Alan. We'll obviously introduce him a little bit more formally in the video session. But Alan is the Technical Director at Pell Frischmann. He's a member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors and the Chartered Institute of Civil Engineering Surveyors. Close to 30 years of experience in surveying and geomatics, and he leads a team at Pell Frischmann, and he's worked all over the globe on various major projects, and he is going to talk to us today about how they've integrated HxDR Reality Cloud Studio into their geomatics workflows. So the agenda for today is that we'll cover that conversation with Alan up front, and then we'll look a little bit deeper into the new features and updated features. So we'll look at AI-powered point cloud classification, our new sitemap levels capability, enhanced geotag workflows, so stuff we've added there to make your life easier, and integrations. We'll also look at something really cool, which is our improved processing pipeline for BLK2Go and BLK Arc data, and also customized settings for shared links. And then if you have any questions, actually, if you can just use your widget, the GoToWebinar widget, to ask a question, we'll get back to you as soon as possible after the session, because we don't always have time to answer those immediately. So let's start with our interview with Alan Muir from Pell Frischmann. Okay, so now we're going to have a really insightful session with Alan Muir from Pell Frischmann. He's the technical director there, a company who's been in existence nearly a century, and he's going to talk about his experience with Reality Cloud Studio and how the latest updates, which we're going to talk about today during the webinar, are going to further enhance their workflow. So good day to you, Alan. Hope you're well.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for joining us today. Really kind of you to come on this session today. So I'm just going to give the guys who are watching the session today, I'd like you to give a brief introduction, of course, about yourself and the organisation. What does Pell Frischmann do? And then, of course, some of the challenges you face as a business, really. Alan, please.
No problem. So my name is Alan Muir. I'm the technical director for Pell Frischmann. I've been doing surveying for 27 years. Been with Pell Frischmann for almost 8 years now. Pell are an engineering consultancy. We undertake design works for water, structural engineering, land developments, and feasibility studies for large-scale developments. We also have a large ecology and sustainability stream, which ties in with our parent company's net zero aims. I head up the land surveying team, which sits within asset management, and we undertake topographic, laser scanning, PAS 128, UAV surveys internally and externally.
Perfect. And you got a mix of different hardware and software, I guess, or are you primarily got Leica Geosystem scanners?
Primarily Leica Geosystem scanners, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. And so, what were your challenges prior to using Reality Cloud Studio from an organisational perspective?
It was the difficulty of visualizing what our CAD modelers and Revit modelers are looking at. Mm-hmm. When we send them a point cloud, they're looking at individual dots on the screen, especially when they drive it into Revit, so they're not really able to visualize with imagery. So using RCS, we're able to share our LGS files and have them split screen working, so they've got Revit on one screen, doing their 3D solid modeling, and on the other screen they can see the imagery, they can see what they're looking at, they'll get a better idea of, especially with MEP and plant, what they can model and how to model effectively. So the driver for getting RCS in the first place was to speed up our Revit modeling process and make it more, make it easier to do.
Okay, well, I mean that's really helpful. So as well as obviously giving them the link and viewing that within the browser, are they also streaming directly into CloudWorks then as well? They're taking the data into those applications?
Initially, they were just using split screens, but with the I guess the progression of the RCS software, that's now possible for them to do. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. I mean that's massive value we see, because we released a free of charge viewer for CloudWorks very recently. We talked about this in the last webinar session. So there's now a real tangible drive to get people streaming from Reality Cloud Studio into Revit, which I guess then you've got the added benefit of all the other stuff if you've got the browser on another window. You know, quick measurements. You know, the mesh is there if you've generated the mesh, which is oftentimes easier to navigate and see as well. So that's really helpful. Thank you, Alan. So yeah, what triggered you to look for a solution? Like, had you got to kind of a breaking point in terms of your workflow and thought we need something, or did this naturally land in your lap?
We got to a point, I guess it was a convenient time. We got to a point where we couldn't really go any further with what we had. We had a very large, complicated project in central London. It involved network rail interfaces. It involved streetscapes, high rises, underground arches. It was for a large sort of structural engineering project. And at the time, we were having difficulty getting the Revit modeling integrated with our scan data. And RCS came along, and we looked at it and thought, this is perfect. We could use this, and it could speed up what we do in the office, and it could also help our QA. So
that would, for you, it was kind of that first project was kind of the Kickstarter to go, okay, we can deliver this, because it's particularly large. You've got large files flying around. It was just easier from a collaborative perspective.
It was, yeah. I mean, this project had something like 440 gigabytes of at the time recap data, and driving that via SharePoint, via ACC, it takes time. It uses up server space, and having it all cloud-based hosted, it's a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, and do you know what? That's really interesting, because there's obviously an education part when we come to customers like yourselves, or any customer who hasn't adopted the platform yet, because they're already mostly using cloud in some part or form within their business, or some way or form. And then you sometimes get a bit of resistance and go, okay, well, I don't want to use the cloud. And you're like, well, you're using it here, and you're using it here. It's like, this is just a natural extension. And I guess the big point for me comes with when you're talking about the scale of the projects, and that's the scalability of the cloud. You're not fixed by your physical hard drive or your space on your server or anything. You are you can just scale it up as you need it. I mean, element of cost there, of course, but if you need to put bigger and bigger data sets, then you can. So I think that's really useful. Okay, perfect. So in terms of projects, I'm assuming now you've got lots of different projects on the platform, ranging across all those different markets that you just said. Could you maybe just walk us through a project, recent project, ideally, maybe touching on some of the new capability in the platform where you've used Reality Cloud Studio successfully? I think the guys listening will be really interested. What are the tangible benefits now within the platform, over and above the sharing part, which we've discussed? But what other functionality are you using within the platform now?
Absolutely, yeah. So we recently, about 4 or 5 months ago, did a large sewage works just outside London. This involved producing topographic surveys, PAS 128 surveys, aerial surveys, as well as laser scanning to produce a Revit model of the whole site. It was about 8 hectares in size, so a fairly large project in terms of infrastructure. So we were able to get the data into Reality Cloud Studio to allow our designers to stream it, to use the panel imagery split screen to generate a Revit model, as we have done over the past year or so using it. The added benefit we had this time around was uploading the Revit file as built or as surveyed, and then comparing that against our point cloud and getting the analysis. It's good for us to have it's additional QA tool, because it's very difficult initially if we produce a Revit model, we then QA that within Revit, and we're picking off individual little areas to check against. Running it through RCS, getting your surface analysis where you can see in real time how good or how bad it is, and our client can see that too, because they have access to it. So the additional QA tool have been able to prove that we are then modeling in Revit, saying that to a client and saying to a client, go have a look, you can see for yourself how accurate this is. That was a massive benefit for us for that project in particular.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting because that's kind of like a three-pronged thing there. You've got the benefits of sharing the original data with the customer. You can share the Revit file and say here's the final modeled object, to the point where if you've got the relevant rights, they could even download it if they wanted
Yeah.
to. But then you're using you're using the scene tool. So you create a visual comparison scene and running the inspection to then deliver the deviation. So you'll be able very quickly go, right, there's a problem here, there's a problem there. And sharing that directly back to the person who's produced the model so they can go and fix it, essentially.
Absolutely, yeah. And previously you'd have an email or report saying, can you check this, and check that. You can now say to the client or designers, I've geotagged all these points I want you to look at, go fix it. Or here, Mr. Client, go look for yourself. You can see the entire model, you can find out exactly how good it is, and you have peace of mind that what we're giving you is fit for purpose, good for detailed design.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's really good. I mean, and that's tangible benefits that are saving you time, right? It's all about, it's saving you time, it's saving you money. And also, for me, I think a big part of Reality Cloud Studio is removing friction. What friction coming from, whether it's data transfer, whether it's come from just making sure the right people have access to the data. So yeah, I think that kind of illustrates it perfectly for that particular particular workflow. So in terms of other features, is there anything else particularly within the platform that's been particularly valuable for you and your team?
So are we talking about new ones or old ones here? Just to break down.
I mean, we'll cover I think we'll cover the new ones in a second. But new, like obviously, we've talked about the browser, the feature comparisons. Is there anything else in there that that is useful? I think you mentioned classification before when we were talking.
Yeah. I guess the standard Leica workflow right now is you can classify before you import your raw data into Register 360. The import takes time depending on how many point clouds you have, how many setups. The classification takes a lot more time as well. Running through without classification into RCS, then classifying in the cloud, frees your time up to go back and do other work. You're not gamming up your PC for long periods of time classifying before you do any work on it.
Exactly. And the other thing that you have to consider, and some people don't realize this, is you need an RTX graphics card essentially to run the classification. So you've got to have a good, I mean, most people do have a good graphics card if they're working with point clouds, but it really is about scaling up. And I think, your point about moving that away from the desktop to the cloud and freeing up your machines is absolutely valid. The other thing that you probably already know is there's 7 different classification options within Reality Cloud Studio. There's only 2, for example, in Register 360. So there's a big, there's a much wider range of classification models. But also because of the speed of updates, they get updated much more regularly than the desktop platform too. So that's for you as a user, that every week or 2 weeks, as we update the models, some are on version 1.0, some are on 2.2, for example, and they improve over time. So that's good for you to know. That's really helpful. Yeah. Right. So now, obviously, today the session is all about updates and what's forthcoming. So I think I'm just going to quickly pull up the list on my side, and we can just go through some of these and just see how they're going to help you, currently in the future. So classification, I guess, we've covered to some degree, so we won't cover that. But for the benefit of everyone watching, we'll cover this full, the full UX for the classification. Something that is coming is sitemap levels. Which we'll discuss in detail. But I mean, how will sitemap levels help you from a project perspective, Alan?
So doing large buildings, the initial project we started, which was multi-level, from railway arches up to ground floor and first floor, the ability to turn off levels rather than having separate point clouds. Having one database, we can isolate one level from the other. Again, it'll speed up and it'll help our client visualize the site better as well.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an ease of use aspect there that is expected, and having played with this solution, I'm very happy with what we've come out as a first release. We're going to have this improved geotag workflow as well, which is basically we bring in geotags from Field 360 through Reg 360 within the LGSX and through to Reality Cloud Studio. How will that help you guys?
I guess it's similar to the Revit capability in the analysis tool we have available now. Bringing geotags from field to finish. That's another audit tool. It's another QA tool. It's another way we can show our client that that the workflows work from start to finish. So as I guess an end-to-end solution. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. I mean, that to me, it's really exciting because we start having like category managers and stuff, and we can have a category manager in Field 360. You tag it accordingly, and it all just flows. It all just flows through. There's also those customers who already have tons of LGSX files with those geotags embedded, which currently weren't being imported. So that's going to be a massive benefit for those guys as well. Another thing that we're going to add, in addition to the ability when you share a public link, Alan, is we can basically set the view state. We can set an expiry date of the unit, but we're going to be able to specify also the settings used for the visualization. So I'm just wondering how that might help you when you're sharing data with colleagues and customers.
It'll allow us to customize, I guess, the splash screen better, so that so our client's able to get a good image at the start. They can then dive as much as or little as they want into the data, but it'll give us a good starting point to deliver the data.
Yeah, I think, and probably for the benefit of people listening, is currently when you open up a new asset, it will use the same visualization settings that you've already used. So it'll be, it'll be like the default quality settings, the default view state. So this just allows you just a little bit more control over that initial, visual appearance that you have. So I've been pushing for it. I'm glad that we've come. There's some other stuff which doesn't affect you. There's some improvements to BLK sensor support as well, but I'll cover that as part of the webinar session later. So yeah, all of that will, again, Alan, it's just this constant improvement and just generally updating the platform as we move forward. So in terms of your again, we've used the word tangible a few times, but if you were to put a figure on it, or if you were to try and put a percentage on it, what kind of level of time saving or cost saving are you seeing by using Reality Cloud Studio?
Time saving maybe about 10 to 15%, just in terms of the upload download times, and also having to free up server space and things like that. The cost saving is a little bit more because we have the ability now to streamline a QA more.
Yeah.
So the Revit modeling speeds up because you're able to visualize the panel images. You can split screen and see the LGS on one platform and Revit on the other. But it's more about the end product, where we are running and letting things run in the cloud, whether it's classification or whether it's the analysis tool. And rather than generating reports and writing reports, we're just sharing this information to the client and saying, there you go. So the actual QA part of it and the collaboration part of it is where we can, our designers, whether it be internal Revit modelers, external Revit modelers, us as project managers for the surveys, and our client, we're making sure they all see the same thing, and they're able to have peace of mind, I suppose, and confidence that the data is being properly checked and properly modeled. That saves us time in writing reports at the end of the day. So there is a little bit more time and cost savings because the QA is automated and it's visible to all.
And you know what? I think we will do even more of that as we go forward, Alan. So like the whole automation aspect in terms of the reporting, how do we, we've got this fantastic deviation, but how do we effectively create labels and geotags automatically based on certain deviation levels? And I think you're probably aware that we're using a lot of the same SDKs that we use in Cyclone 3DR from a desktop perspective. We cloudify those, we kind of wrap it up in a new UI. There's a lot of stuff I see in Cyclone 3DR that I'd love to come across to the cloud over time, which again will be, it's all about making it easy and accessible, right? We can have the level, if we want that depth and level of complexity, then we can look at 3DR for the time being, whereas Reality Cloud Studio really does open it up to a lot more people, I think. So like you said, they're non-scanning people, they're non-surveying people. They might not, a point cloud might not mean anything to them, but a panorama with full measurement capability and geotags is exactly what they need.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's great. So I think another question really for me is, and I think you probably answered this actually, so we can probably keep this bit sweet, is if there's any before and after. Like you've already said, like before was sharing files using SharePoint or recap files and whatever, but now you seem to have got a really nice process flow and you're comfortable with where you are. So like before and after, like how does it feel for you? I mean, I talked about removing friction, but is that what you feel?
Yes. The before, there's lots of time spent uploading, downloading things, sharing files, and making sure that your client potentially has a software to view this information. They may well not be Autodesk users. They may well not have the ability to open up recap files or Revit files. They may not have access to ACC because it can be restricted by some organizations. And just giving them a link to LGS to RCS and enabling them to actually look at the information, to create their own tags, to come back to us and say, can you have a look at this? or to have them visually check the analysis tools and the deviation tools is ideal.
Yeah, okay. And I think for something that we've obviously mentioned during when we've done intros to this is the management of the users within the projects as well, because we will have more, by the way. There's a lot more happening in the background in terms of how we manage users. But the fact that you can add external contractors to your account to view projects and you can limit what they can and can't do, I think is also massively important. Like you said, if you've got people overseas who are maybe doing some modeling work for you, you haven't, a big thing we hear is, yes, there's the data sharing, but we've still got some customers who are shipping hard drives and USB drives around, and that's that's the mentality that we kind of need to remove. But so just as we start to wrap up, Alan, I think we're probably just about within time. Have you got any final words of wisdom? I'm not going to put any words in your mouth. I'm going to let you impart what you feel. And I think it's obvious that you're using the platform successfully for some major projects. I'm excited to see how you grow and use it. And there's a lot of companies who are like Pell Frischmann out there that obviously can adopt this solution. But what would be your words of wisdom for people who are watching the session today?
Initially, when we started using it, it was a visualization tool. As it evolves, it's doing a lot more. It's allowing us to go field to finish. It's allowing us to have full visibility and full exposure to our designers and to our clients. It's bringing all that processes together. And it's enhancing how we collaborate with our designers, whether they be in-house or external, and with our client. And as that continues to evolve, I think it's only going to get better.
Do you know what? I love the phrase that you use, because it's one we use, which is that field to finish. And I absolutely, as we go forward, you're probably all already aware, maybe not using it, but you can effectively go from Cyclone Field 360 directly to Reality Cloud Studio. And there's functionalities in Field 360 like the new georeferencing workflow, so you can extract your targets, georeference, and then go straight to the cloud. And that's not saying that the desktop will stop and cease to exist. Reg 360 is a big product. But obviously a lot of in-depth functionality in there that would, to translate to the cloud, would take a long time. But field to finish, whether it's going field to cloud or field through the desktop to cloud, I think that's a really good statement. But I mean, I've really appreciated your insight anyway, Alan. I think it's it's exciting from my perspective to see someone who's using it day to day in the workplace. So thank you very much for sharing your insight. I guess as you grow and use the product more, it'd be really good to get some feedback in the future. I know you're already part of our our customer advisory board, which gives you insight into what's coming and helping to try and shape the direction of the product as well. But I think it's really it's inspiring, and I wanted to make sure that as part of these webinar sessions we now have a customer segment. You're the first one, Alan. Thank you very much.
That's all right.
Thank you for your time, and we'll catch up very, very soon. If not here, we'll catch you in one of our customer advisory boards. But really, really appreciate your time today.
Not a problem, Paul. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Alan. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that session. It was really, really good talking to Alan. He's a great guy. He's got some fantastic insights, and I look forward to seeing how they continue to use the platform as it grows. So now let's talk about point cloud classification. This is something that we've done in the desktop for a few years in Cyclone 3DR and Register 360, but now we've added the capability in Reality Cloud Studio. So when we talk about data processing, there's often current challenges. I'm sure you've often found yourself looking like this poor gentleman on the right-hand side, but we can be impeded by some slow and efficient workflows. One thing with classification in particular is it requires a high-end computer, and they can be consumed for a long time while some of these classification processes are happening. So we want to try and avoid that with HxDR Reality Cloud Studio. Another thing is that obviously personnel, you have personnel with certain skill sets know how to use the software, and if they're not available, that causes an issue. Again, with HxDR Reality Cloud Studio, that goes away because it's a single button click and you choose your classification model and it will start running straight away. You don't want to pull high skill VDC team members away with processing tasks. So anyone can run the classification as long as they know the model that they want to use. It doesn't take a particularly skilled person to choose the right setting and get that operation kicked off. So that's another consideration. And obviously, if you don't run classification, then you could obviously impede and make your downstream processes longer. So by using classification, we can speed up our modeling process. in particular, if you look at something like streaming from HxDR Reality Cloud Studio into our CloudWorks products, for example, you can turn on and off all the different layers. So if you want to just look at the steel, for example, you can find that very, very easily without having to create limit boxes and cut and crop. So it really does speed up the processing angle. So we want to remove our processing bottlenecks. We want to focus on design, not data prep. That's the key point here. We don't want people worrying about the processes. Let's have the best-in-class algorithms and deliver what people want. We want to create deliverables, and we don't necessarily want to have to self-train on complex software. For example, if we look at our meshing or our classification, it is a single button push, and you don't need to understand the full complexity of a whole other software suite in order to get good results. Obviously, we want to hit our timelines, doesn't everyone, including me, when producing this webinar, but we don't want to get bottlenecked by our CPU, our GPU. So if you can move those heavy processing tasks to the cloud, then obviously you can free up resources for modeling. And that's part of the reason why a lot of people are leveraging classification now in HxDR Reality Cloud Studio. And the other thing is you can scale. You don't need to ramp up your RAM or your GPU or CPU. We just handle this on the back end on our servers. And you don't have to worry about additional IT investments to like, for example, a high-end RTX graphics card in order to run this. So we're going to talk now, obviously we can stream. I think I've mentioned this in previous webinars. We can host our data in Reality Cloud Studio, and we can stream that out into Cyclone 3DR or our CloudWorks enabled products. And obviously that allows us to achieve greater scan to BIM and versus BIM accuracy, particularly when we use classification, because we can declutter the point clouds. All the noise we can put on a separate layer, and we'll look at that in a video in a little while. We can classify by industry application with specific class models. So we've got a list of 7. I'll go through those in a minute. And another key point is that we have this free CloudWorks viewer for Revit, with more forthcoming for other products, that eliminates data conversion and allows you just to share your projects with people within Revit. So this could be third-party contractors that you've added to a project, and now they don't have to pay. There's no paywall to get access to CloudWorks. You can open the point cloud, slice, section, change the colorization, and start modeling really, really quickly. So this customer in particular, we saw a 10% reduction in modeling hours, resulting in fewer site visits, greater overall efficiency. That is what is the name of the game. We want to try and find all these adaptations and changes that will ultimately make more money and do things faster and safer and with more efficiency. So with our classification, there are already industry proven algorithms from Cyclone 3DR and Register 360. We classify the points, the point clouds, not the images. That's really important. And these are the current classification models. So we've got everything from indoor construction site through to plant, through to road, and we've got some videos to show the outputs. And we'll talk about the implementation and classification in Reality Cloud Studio as we work through this section. So this is a really nice video here. I'm just going to let this run and I'll talk over the top. So all you do is you go to your artifacts panel on the left-hand side and you click classification. You choose your model, so you can see here indoor construction site. Probably choose indoor construction site for this particular one and click start. And that is it. It goes off and it does it in the background, and you completely remove those bottlenecks. So in this case, what we'll do as the next step is we'll stream that data from HxDR Reality Cloud Studio down into Cyclone 3DR in this case, or it could be CloudWorks. And you can see here now we can separate by attributes. We use classification, and then we've now got all of those point clouds have been split out, and they can be turned on and off. So in this case, we turn off the other layer, and all the noise has now gone. And that is the power of classification. We haven't had to do any manual ops to deliver that final point cloud result. Okay, so if we look now again at the classification models, we'll look at the different types of models that we use. We're just going to pick on 3 here. So this one you saw before, I think, was the indoor construction one. So we'll just look at the classification again. So this is indoor construction. You can turn on and off all those different objects as you want to. The next one is plants. Now this is ever evolving. This is getting better and better and better. The video is actually recorded with an old version of the algorithm, so it's been updated since. So it's even better at identifying flanges and valves and generally the pipes. And this is a road example. This was actually captured in my village. I just remembered when I saw the data earlier on. And we classified this in Reality Cloud Studio, and you can see now you can turn on pipes, and you can turn on the curbstones, and you can obviously switch on and off all these different layers independently. So really, really fantastic classification tools streaming down into 3DR. So we classify in the cloud and we stream it to the desktop. That's available today. But what about actually the classification, viewing the classification within the browser? So this is coming in Q4. So this is being worked on right now. This is just a hint. You can see some of the prelim. This is actually done with an older model, but you can see again the preliminary view that you would have and the ability to turn on and off these layers directly within the browser itself. So classification is going to be everywhere, and classification really is going to power some of the workflows of the future as we add more and more tools directly into the platform. So I'm very excited to see where this heads, and shout out to the developers for bringing this to market really, really quickly. And this is a feature that's been asked for a lot since release, is the ability to generate sitemap levels. So be able to split your project by levels to make navigation much, much easier. So what do we mean by that? So firstly, we create an immersive, flexible experience. The users are able to break this down. They jump in, they choose the level they want to look at, and it eliminates all that visual clutter, any confusion, and obviously makes it easier to navigate. Teams can provide very clear direction. So you said go to the second level and look at this pipe or this part. You can also do that by navigating to geotags or navigating to limit boxes, for example, as well. But this collaborative argument, it all comes up all the time, and Levels is just going to improve that even more. Obviously, large facilities, you can now use a combination of those limit boxes and the levels to obviously give you a much, much nicer structured view of those complex sites. And obviously, targeted exploration, instantly jump to the right floor, and at the same time your minimap, your sitemap changes and will then only show you the setups that you can jump to within that level as well. So that's really, really important. So we'll look at a little video now. I mean, it's such a simple tool. It's on the left hand side, go to levels and you add a level. So you can just use the same tools that you've used for the limit box effectively to choose your height. So you've got your height, you've got your Z position, and then you can add another level, and then you can just flip between them. And if you look very carefully as we're doing this in a second, once we finish those levels and we save it and look at the minimap, it will actually, as we click those, the minimap will actually update, and you can see those setup icons are changing based on the level that we're picking. So it just means that we can be very, very structured in our approach to navigating the asset. So sitemap levels. So that is going to, again, be coming very, very soon in Q4 in final testing. We won't release it till we're happy, but it will get rolled out automatically to you if you're an existing user. So now let's look at geotags. A lot of stuff has happened with geotags since we last had a conversation. Geotags are getting more and more important, not to mention the fact that we will be supporting LGSX files with geotags. They'll be consumed into the platform as well very, very soon. So that's all forthcoming. But yeah, let's maximize our data with full context. I love that phrase because we are contextualizing the information that we're putting in Reality Cloud Studio. So of course, it enhances your organization accessibility. We can now create customized categories per project, which means that we can, and we'll go through this in a second, but we can create a customized category list within at the project level, which means that flows through to any sub assets that you've added or sub projects you've added within that project. You can obviously help streamline your maintenance operations. So we see now, interestingly, there's quite a few like fire companies, for example, that we're coming across, and universities who are using this from a management perspective, putting all their buildings into the platform and then using geotags as a means to navigate through the assets. We're having improved integration with asset and facility management applications, so you can create direct links to individual geotags as you can with anything within Reality Cloud Studio. But we're also working on our integration with Hexagon, SDX, and SDX2, Hexagon EAM, other products that you might be familiar with as well, so that we can leverage the asset across multiple different parts of the Hexagon ecosystem. We've also added the ability to filter geotags by distance and elevation. I mean, we did have this filter tool, but just so you're aware, if you do have 1,000 geotags, or I think the other day a customer had 3,000 geotags in their asset, you can now filter by distance and elevation. So when you're at any point, you're only seeing the information that is relevant to you rather than across the whole project. So you haven't got that clutter. Now, so what are the unlimited geotag improvements? Well, the first thing is that we've now got this dedicated category manager, which you can choose free text or a list. You can have unlimited values, and you can assign colors for every value that you specify. And then when you hover over a geotag, you would see the colors for the top 3 list values. We'll look at that in the video in a second. We've also got unlimited attachments per geotag, so this is any file format. This gets uploaded to the cloud and is linked to the geotag. And again, you'll see the attachment count when you hover over the 3D view, and also unlimited links per geotag. So again, same if you hover over the geotag, you can see the link count associated with that. So yeah, we really are bolstering the whole geotag workflow, as this video will show now. So what we're going to do here, we go into a project and we've got this categories tab on the right, and we choose to add a new category. So like I said, we've got list or text, and then you can choose. So here you've got fire safety, and we'd added fire extinguisher and hydrant. So now we go into our asset, we add a geotag, and it will pop up, so we can give it a name. And then from that list, you've got the drop down, you can just choose, you can add any attachments, you can add any links directly to that, and that gets all uploaded to the platform. As you save it, so you'll see a little notification saying it's been added. And of course, you can update any other existing geotags. So in this case, we want to add that same attachment to the fire extinguisher within the scene, and we just save, and then that will also upload directly to the platform. And then you can share, click on the ellipsis, and then you click share geotag link, and you can share that with anyone within the project, and it will drive them directly to that location. Now this is a really important one. You guys, lots of you guys have got BLK to goes and BLK arcs. We know that because we can see the stats of the file formats that are getting uploaded. So what we're going to look at now is some of the improvements to the processing of B2G files. So if you upload a B2G file directly to the platform, the output, and this will also filter down into Reg 360 Plus as well. So you'll have we'll have that improved look and visualization across the whole software portfolio. But this is where, from my perspective, where it makes an impact today. So in terms of what we've done, obviously we've enhanced the detail in the colorized point clouds. So we now have more data. We're actually importing more, displaying more. We've got improved color consistency, and so no more of this kind of like spaghetti look and feel to the data of the BLK to go. It now looks very much like consistent scan data, and the point cloud and the colors themselves are more natural. They're not, sometimes there were some bluey tints and orange tints coming in. They now look like true representations of reality. And of course, this is a denser full point cloud resolution that you see. So let's just look at a couple of those examples. So here on the left, this is before and this is after. So you can see there's a real tangible difference. Particularly if you look at the light, the detail on that light, and the fact that you've got the lighter area inside. It as well, and that it just looks completely different. Even the wall, like the thickness and the density, how much data you've actually got to work with. This one I like because this is typical of BLK Arc potentially for lots of internal applications on the back of a robotic dog perhaps, or a backpack. And now you can see again this is a more natural colorization. Not only that, you haven't got these lines across the floor, so it all looks very, very consistent, and everything just looks a little bit more realistic. This one is nice because you can see again we've got some lines which are like blue. We've got these kind of blue vertical lines in this pre-existing data set, and the after you can see this is completely gone. Plus obviously on the desks and the floor everything is much smoother, plus we've got more data. And this final one I think is really impressive. If you look at the detail, you've got this shed, and now on first glance you're like, oh okay, whatever, it's just a shed or a small industrial area. But if you look now, not only is it richer and crisper and the colour is better, but you look at that front edge, the gable end, and you've just got a lot more detail. There's a lot more clarity there. So really, we're really pushing hard on the visual quality of the point clouds, and we'll start to do this for all the different sensor types as we move forwards to really kind of bolster the look and feel and the colour. We've done some really cool stuff with AI in the background to get to this point, but I just wanted you guys to be sure that this will ultimately give you a much, much better look and feel for your data when bringing it into Reality Cloud Studio. Now, one really nice thing we can do, as you are aware with the platform, is you can share. We can share links to individual measurements, to limit boxes, to tours. But what we can do now is we can customize the settings for shared links. So yeah, we can share data your way. So you can set expiration dates. So you can confidently share the data with a public link, and you know that it will disappear without having to follow it up later down the line. You can also now set your starting view. So you can set the starting point, and you can also set the starting view state. So you can choose Pano, Mesh, or Point Cloud. Obviously, if you have, if you don't have a mesh, then it won't give you that option. If you don't have Panorama, it won't give you that option. But you can choose how you actually interact and your stakeholders, how they see that data. So there you go. This is the share asset tab. So top left-hand side of your interface is the share button, and then you can choose. The top option here is to share within your project team. So if you've got someone who you've added to a project, you can send them that link. But now, of course, underneath you've then got this general access link. So you've got the expiration date and the starting view. You can also choose the measurement system, imperial or metric, if you want to as well. So yeah, that's a really nice update. I'm particularly happy with that, and our customers have been incredibly happy with that addition as well. And since we last spoke, there's been some additional improvements. So we've now got support for the active UCS in an LGSX file. So make sure you set that in Register 360 Plus before exporting. You can now set your preferred starting view at the user level when you open an asset. So if you go under your user profile, and you can edit that, you can choose, and I personally choose panorama. So typically whenever I open any asset, it just jumps to the starting location and the closest panorama to that starting location. There's a help button on the left menu bar now, as well as the support. The links are all up to date in terms of the FAQs and everything like that as well, so it's much easier to navigate. And this is a big one. When you now add someone to a project, they will receive an email notification when they've been added to that project. So rather than before they just log in and they'd see, they've got a new project in their portfolio, they now say you've been added to X project, and obviously they can jump to it. We've also added some UI improvements. Navigation is now much smoother. Measurements, the tools again much smoother. Just jumping in and out of measurements, and the picking methods are just far improved. Geotags, we've gone through that today, so you've seen most of the improvements to geotags. And messages and prompts have all been updated as well. So we've updated a lot of the messaging within the platform with things you probably don't see. I see on a day-to-day basis, but thing just to try and make the application as smooth and user efficient as possible. So they're just some little things that we've added there. So a fantastic array of things that we've added in the platform and things that are coming very, very soon and in final testing. So let's just wrap up today and look what we've covered. So we had that fantastic session with Alan from Pell Frischmann. I really enjoyed that talk with him, primarily because he's a really nice guy, but ultimately they are using the product in anger on every single project, and they're using the new functionality as well. So the scan to bin deviation reporting, for example. Then we looked at AI powered point cloud classification, of course, and how that's going to help not only improve by removing noise and layering the data and allowing us to be much, much quicker in terms of modeling, but how do we power the workflows of the future with classification? And sitemap levels, self-explanatory, nice and easy to break down the project by levels. All those enhanced geotag functionality, including of course LGSX import as well, that's coming very soon. The AI powered processing for BLK to go and BLK ARC data. The color improvements, so hopefully if you're an owner of one of those devices, you can clearly see the improvements, and of course the customizable settings for shared links. So we've covered a lot in a short space of time, but I really am very, very positive with the direction of the platform and the adoption that we're seeing. And customer, we had a customer recently, and they said someone has asked me for a Reality Cloud Studio link, and at that point you're doing the right thing. People are asking for a link specifically. And one thing that drives it a lot is actually the meshing. People love the meshing, like the image on the right hand side. So we've covered a lot today, but I think we've done a good job, and I hope you've enjoyed the session. If you've got any questions, as I said, if you've asked a question, we'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you want to scan this QR code, you can talk to an expert, and we will run a free personalized demonstration for you, no problem at all. If you've got any marketing queries, then please talk to Nelly using her details just there, and full thanks to her for helping set up these webinar sessions and continue with the pace of getting the information to you, our customers. So I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Alan. Thank you to you guys for obviously listening, continuing to support the product, and we'll obviously try and push these out again regularly every single quarter as we're adding more content to the platform and more functionality. And we will try, of course, to get more customer case studies as well and try and bolt those onto each session. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time once more. We'll see you on the next session. And if you could make sure that as you leave the webinar, you fill in the questionnaire, there'll be a very, very short exit survey. That would be really helpful to help shape the future sessions that we will run for you. So take care, have a good day, and I'll speak to you very, very soon. you.